The Marine Corps sniper training facility at Quantico was silent except for the crack of rifles and the frustrated curses of some of the military's best marksmen. For 3 days, the elite sniper candidates had been attempting to hit a target at 1,800 meters in rapidly changing wind conditions. It was an optional challenge, not required for graduation, but the kind of shot that separated good snipers from legendary ones. Out of 20 candidates, not a single one had succeeded. The instructors watched with growing concern. These were their best students, equipped with the finest rifles technology could offer, trained in the most advanced techniques. Yet the target remained untouched. Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, the lead instructor, was considering canceling the exercise when a voice spoke from behind him. "Mind if an old man gives it a try?" Torres turned to find an elderly civilian standing at the fence line, watching the training. He wore faded jeans, a worn jacket, and a baseball cap with a Vietnam veteran insignia. His face was weathered and deeply lined, and he leaned slightly on a wooden cane. Torres recognized him as Henry Chun, a local resident who often walked the perimeter trail. The Marines had nicknamed him the Walker because he passed by almost every day, rain or shine, always stopping to watch for a few minutes before moving on. Torres smiled politely, the way you smile at elderly people making jokes. "With all due respect, sir, this is a military training facility. Our snipers train for years to attempt shots like this." Henry nodded slowly, his dark eyes calm and knowing. "I understand. I'm just saying I've made that shot before. Long time ago, but muscle memory doesn't forget." Something in the old man's tone made Torres pause. "You were a sniper, sir?" Henry's expression grew distant. "Marine Scout Sniper, Vietnam, 1st Battalion, 26th Marines. Kisan, 1968. Torres felt a chill run down his spine. Kisan was legendary among Marines, a siege that had tested men beyond imagination. But what happens next will humble even the most elite warriors, because sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected teachers. And what this old veteran is about to demonstrate will prove that skill, patience, and hard-won wisdom can never be replaced by technology alone. Torres made a decision that would likely get him reprimanded. "Lieutenant Morrison," he called to his superior officer, explaining the situation. Morrison was skeptical but intrigued. He'd spent his career studying Marine Corps history, and the Kisan snipers were legendary. "Let's see what you've got, sir," Morrison said, gesturing toward the firing line. Henry moved slowly, his cane tapping against the ground. The young sniper candidates exchanged glances, some smirking, others looking uncomfortable. This old man could barely walk. How could he possibly make a shot they couldn't? Henry settled into position with difficulty, his joints clearly protesting. A candidate offered to help, but Henry waved them off gently. "Need to feel it myself," he said. He studied the rifle they offered him, a modern M110 semi-automatic sniper system, and shook his head. "Different from what I use, but the principles are the same." He looked downrange at the target, barely visible at 1,800 meters. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He closed his eyes. For a full minute, he simply breathed, his weathered face peaceful. The Marines watched in silence, confusion, and skepticism warring with respect for a fellow Marine, no matter how old. When Henry opened his eyes, he made several small adjustments to the rifle that the instructors hadn't taught. He adjusted his breathing pattern to something irregular, almost meditative. Then he began talking, his voice soft but carrying across the silent range. If this story is touching you, if you believe that experience and wisdom should never be dismissed because of age, hit that like button. Your support helps us share stories about respect, humility, and the timeless lessons that one generation can teach another. Subscribe because we bring you stories every week that prove true mastery comes from hard-won experience, and that we should never stop learning from those who came before us. In Vietnam, we didn't have computers calculating wind drift or ballistics. We had to feel it. You watch the grass, the way dust moves, how heat waves shimmer. But more than that, you have to become part of the environment. You're not fighting the wind, you're dancing with it. he settled into the rifle, his body achieving a stillness that seemed impossible for someone his age. At Kisan, we were outnumbered 20-1. Every shot had to count, because every shot meant one less enemy trying to kill your brothers. You learn to make impossible shots because failure isn't an option when lives depend on you. His finger moved to the trigger. This shot right here, 1,800 meters. That was a Tuesday for us. The real challenge was making it while mortar rained down, and you hadn't slept in 3 days. He fired. The shot echoed across the range. For a moment, everything was still. Then the spotter's voice crackled over the radio, tinged with disbelief. Direct hit, center mass. The firing line erupted. Marines crowded around the spotting scope, confirming what seemed impossible. Henry had made the shot on his first attempt, something none of them had accomplished in 3 days. Torres approached the old man, who was slowly getting to his feet, his face showing the pain the effort had cost him. "Sir, how? What did you do differently?" Henry handed back the rifle carefully. "I didn't do anything different. I did it the old way. You young Marines, you've got all this technology, all these tools. But you're relying on them instead of trusting yourself. The rifle is just a tool. The real weapon is here," he tapped his head. "And here," he touched his chest. "Knowledge and heart." Morrison stepped forward. "Would you be willing to spend some time with our candidates? Teach them what you know?" Henry looked at the young faces surrounding him, eager now instead of skeptical. He saw himself in them, 50 years younger, thinking he knew everything. "If you think this old man can be useful, I'd be honored." Over the next 2 weeks, Henry became a fixture at the range. He couldn't demonstrate every shot anymore. His body wouldn't allow it. But he taught them things no manual could contain. How to read wind by watching birds fly. How to control breathing during stress. How to calculate angles using landmarks instead of computers. How to find calm in chaos. Most importantly, he taught them patience and humility. He told them stories about Kisan, about shots made in impossible conditions, about brothers lost and lessons learned in blood and sacrifice. He never glorified war, but he honored what it had taught him. The candidates who had been cocky became students. The ones who had been frustrated found peace. By the end of those 2 weeks, every single candidate had made the 1,800-meter shot. Torres reported the highest graduation scores in 5 years. On Henry's last day, Morrison presented him with a plaque and an honorary position as a civilian advisor. But more meaningful was watching 20 elite Marine snipers stand at attention and salute an old man with a cane, showing the respect that true warriors recognize in each other across generations. Years later, those Marines would tell their own students about the old veteran who humbled them, who taught them that technology is worthless without wisdom, that youth and strength are no match for experience and patience. They would pass on his lessons, keeping alive the knowledge earned in a jungle siege half a century ago. Henry continued his daily walks, stopping to watch the snipers train. Sometimes they'd wave him over, ask questions, seek advice. He always obliged, honored to serve in this new way, proving that a Marine never truly retires from teaching the next generation. This story reminds us that age brings wisdom that cannot be taught in classrooms or downloaded from computers. It shows us that respecting our elders, especially veterans who sacrifice so much, isn't just courtesy, it's essential to preserving knowledge that could save lives. Have you ever been taught something valuable by someone from an older generation? Have you witnessed a moment where experience triumphed over youth and technology? Share your story in the comments because your experience might inspire someone to seek wisdom from unexpected sources. If this story moved you, if it reminded you to respect and learn from those who came before us, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss stories about honor, humility, and the timeless value of hard-won experience. Remember, every veteran, every elder has lessons that no amount of technology can replace. Listen to them. Learn from them. Honor them not just with words but by preserving what they fought to protect. Until next time, stay humble and never stop learning.